So I'm just going to take you through a quick video on how you can create a template for a client that has got frontal alopecia. So frontal fibrosing alopecia, where they have got no hair in the front and it graduates to hair in the sides and in the back. And obviously with frontal alopecia, it could be anywhere from the temples all the way right down to where their ears are. So for this mannequin, we've just like shaved the top of the head roughly to about the temples, and we're going to create a template. Now, the things that you need for creating a template is cling film. So you'll always need cling film. This is what actually the template is made from. You're going to need your sellotape, and you're going to need some scissors to cut both the cling film and the sellotape. And you'll also need a marker. Like, I generally tend to use a Sharpie, and the reason why I use a Sharpie is because when I make the mold, I put the cling film on first, then the sellotape, and then I do my markings. And with a Sharpie, what you'll find is that it then won't smudge. If you use other types of markers, you might have to actually put the marking directly onto the cling film and then cover it up with the tape. But the method I'm going to show you is I'm going to put the cling film on, then the tape, and then the markings. And I prefer it that way because I just find that it's a lot easier to draw over the sellotape than it is when you've just got the cling film on. So this is a quick demonstration. So if you really want to know in detail how to do not just this design, but other designs, then send us an email at ultrastrands@ultrastrands.co.uk. And you can book on a training course, and we can take you through exactly how it is to create different versions of templates for all kinds of hair conditions. But today I'm just going to focus on a very simple frontal alopecia example. So usually you would need your client's participation, just because it's easier when you've got two people. If your client isn't able to, you can also use a member of staff, and I'll tell you the times when you would need somebody to actually assist you. I'm doing this all on my own, so I'm just going to show you the tips that I'm going to do when you are solo and you've got nobody and your client can't help you. So that's the version that I'm going to show you. But generally speaking, your client should be able to do a few things just to help the template be more secure. So you measure out the amount of cling film that you need. Make sure you've roughly got something that goes over the head and over the requirement that you're going to require. It's only cling film, so we don't need to be sparse on it. Okay, and then use your scissors to just cut off the excess. And there you go. Okay. Now there's the cling film. So what I'm going to do now is you just place it just in front of the hairline, or if there is no hairline, where the hairline would be. And in order to determine where the hairline is, 4 fingers, and that should line up with the eyebrows. And then you start the hairline from that point. Okay, I'm just going over. Now this is the point where you'd ask your client or somebody to help you, because you gather the sides. So once you've gone over, you gather at the sides. What you generally will do is you'd start to twist. But what I do if I've got a client, I'll ask them to hold one side, and then I'll twist one side. And then once that's twisted, I will then twist the second side. If you've got somebody helping you, you can ask them to twist at the same time as you're twisting. But because I don't have either, what I'm going to use is a grip. And I'm just going to grip the side that I'm not twisting. And then I'm going to start to twist. The twisting, what that does is it makes the template snug against the client's head. Make sure when you're twisting, you don't get any of the client's hair in. At this point, you would normally ask your client to hold it. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take off the grip from there. So my grip is the representation of the client holding it. And now I'm going to start to twist the other side. Again, get it as close as possible and as snug as possible onto your clients, because the snugger it is, the more it's going to fit like a glove. and you want the volumizer to fit your client like a glove. This is why it's customized. Or actually, we call it bespoke design. So this is actually a bespoke design. So creating a bespoke design. Okay. So now that that's done, at this point, some people will draw directly onto the cling film. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put tape on first, because I'm using a Sharpie pen, and the Sharpie pens, once it's dry, it won't smudge. When you're doing the sellotape, I always say prepare your sellotape. So you might want to have a number of strips already pre-done, so that it's just a case of picking it up and stripping it on. If you've got somebody to help you, then they can create the strips. They don't need to be very long, but you've got to make sure that you don't do them too short either. Otherwise, you're just going to be there all day. The direction that you apply the strips is entirely up to you. You can do front to back, side to side, in a diagonal. The key thing is about covering the total base. Now, when you're doing this using the sellotape, you're trying as much as possible to cover, you know, the big template that you've created. Even though the final structure might be shorter, you want to go over and above what you're actually going to be requiring. So I'm going to start side by side and then go as we go along. Now that's done, you can lift it up. You can see how sturdy it is. And just now position it exactly where you want to position, because this is where the exciting bit comes, because you're now going to trace the actual template. Again, I'm going to use a Sharpie, and I'm just going to create the hairline and the actual size of where I want, how big I want the volumizer to be. So again, Sharpie, if you can see this. So I'm actually going to go into the areas where there is some hair, because this client would like to have a bit more volume in the areas where there is hair. And that's the beauty about UltraStrands, because you can do that by just having holes in that section. So it's just like painting. So you're just painting on. What you want to make sure that you do is differentiate between where you're going to have the ultra lace, and the ultra lace is what sits in the section where there's no hair, and the UltraStrands is where they've got the actual hair. So you make that differentiation. I'm doing here. And then what I do is, when it's the lace, I put an L in, just so that when it gets sent in, we know exactly what you want. And then where it's a stranding, I put S. Obviously, with this, you'll accompany it with your notes. So for the stranding, you can determine exactly what the density is, the size of the holes are, whether it's medium holes, small holes, large holes. Also, with where the lace section is, you can determine whether it's medium density, thick density, or light density. But once you've drawn that, now you are ready to cut it. Okay, I'm just going to take this off so we can see exactly what we've got here. And that is your template. And now we're going to cut to get the exact template shape. Just using your scissors, just cutting it. Very simple. and it's the outer perimeter that you're cutting of the entire piece. Okay, so there you have it. This is the template. Just put it back on your client just to make sure it fits nice tight. So there it is, that's a template. On the front side is where it's got the L, and at the back it's got the S for the stranding. And that's simply it. So all you now need to do is pop that in an envelope with the instructions, and you send it directly to us in the head office.